Yep.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Entertain a motion to approve the minutes. So
I read them.
Jason is also here for the record. Jason Lafreniere. Okay, sorry about that, Jason.
That's all right. I just popped in.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You should stay, right? 'Cause
Yeah. Okay, public participation. Ally, is there anyone on the line from the public?
you can abstain. Thank you.
Okay, monthly financials.
We'll continue to be going along, and it looks like we're still in a very good place. I haven't seen any big swings, although I probably will be changing my estimate of the supplies based on the fuel bids we got today that I will pass out to a little bit later, because my estimate was much higher with what the bids were going to come in as. So I'm very happy, very pleased with the bids that came in. So I think I'm going to reverse my estimate from being so much over to being actually right on par. So that'll give us a little more wiggle room with the budget.
Anybody have any questions? Jason, are you all set? Ed?
Okay.
Ed, do you have any questions?
Nope, nothing.
I also included the food service report. And in the last month, we had another good month. We didn't make as much money as the previous month, but we're still in the black. So the profits for the year are 177,938.
Hold on just one second.
We don't have it yet.
I'm sorry.
It's up there, but
That's it, far.
Oh.
I couldn't get this in the packet because the figures weren't completed until Monday.
Can someone send this to Marissa so she can send it to Jason and Ed?
It's in the share.
They can pull it from the share file.
Oh, okay.
The days, there were less days in the month, 2 less days, so that's part of the reason why the profits weren't as high. And there were quite a few instances of people being out sick, so we had to use more substitutes. So we're paying double. We're paying the person that's out sick and the substitute. So that is another reason why the labor costs were so high. That's something that can't be avoided. People are ill. But we're working on a few programs. We're trying to put in a grant for equipment and buy some rolling carts so that we can serve the foods in waves so that people will have a chance to have breakfast if they come in at 7 o'clock in the morning and they don't want to eat. We're going to try and get them to eat at 9 o'clock because a lot of times teenagers don't want to eat when they first get there. So we're going to try to have carts so that they could have breakfast, grab a bag and go.
Go ahead, Sue.
If that happens at 9 o'clock, where would it happen and will that disrupt the learning process and where everyone is at
Just
that
be in
moment, at that
passing.
time?
It'd be in passing. They would just go, if they were hungry for breakfast at 9, they would just grab it in passing on the way to class.
To go through the cafeteria area?
It would be on a cart somewhere.
Like one cart for the whole school?
No, it would be either cafeteria or a cart. I'm trying to get carts for 2 carts for the high school and 1 cart for every school with a grant from the federal food service program. So if I can get those, then it will facilitate children being able to eat faster, actually get it. Because I know in some of the schools, they have to walk pretty far to go to the cafeteria, and sometimes they just don't feel like walking that far. So if we can make it easier for them, maybe they'll eat. Increase the breakfast, because as you can see, the breakfast is 23,000 meals, but lunch was 48,000 meals. So they should be.
And how much we get reimbursement is tied directly to how many kids eat.
Yes.
I think that was gonna be my question. Can we maybe, in the next, few months with the budget, one of the parts we discussed a lot about was offering the free food at the higher levels, at like the high school. I can't remember, I think middle school is always included in some of our scenarios, but can we see what that breakdown looks like? Like, I'm just curious, how many meals are we serving to the high school versus the population? Same with the middle school, because that was like a big point of the discussion.
Sure.
When
I
they
can bring that
approved
to you
this.
next time.
Yeah, I mean. you guys have a lot.
But we're district-wide, right?
Well, that's my question, right? Yeah, and that was part of the
Okay.
discussion, was do we go district-wide or do we only do a K through?
We are
We are
district-wide.
district
Right,
wide.
we're ready.
Right,
So
so
every
I guess
child-
I'm just trying to
You wanna
understand, was that the right decision based on the meals that are being served, right? Does that put us at any risk? I don't know, from a financial standpoint.
Is it paying off? I think probably is. Is it?
Well, we're in the black. We weren't
Well-
last year.
Oh, well, those, I think we don't have the historical here probably. And I still don't understand the food service and how
When I
it
look
impacts us.
back
I can
over
see
the
how we're
years-
profiting, but you're right, we're profiting.
There were, it was in the red every year. You guys were subsidizing the food service program every year. This is the first year that it's in the black, so I'm
Good.
just.
Well, we've only
trying-
been free lunch for how long?
This is your second year.
Right, so
Thankfully,
of course it
before
would be
COVID.
in the red
Mhm.
prior to that, because we would lose so much money with people not paying. So I don't think we can associate being in the red prior to 2 years ago with it's not the same scenario.
We can actually, so, and John can attest to this because we talked about this all through COVID. So we were actually really fortunate that we went all free prior to COVID because there was a lot of school systems that had an excess of $1 million deficit because all those opening, closings, they
Well,
weren't
not-
getting the reimbursement. So
not
they
only
had-
that,
But prior to that, I'm thinking it's apples and oranges, because we were prior to 2 years ago. I think it's great that we're not in the red anymore, but 3 years ago, if we were in the red, would be different than today, is all I'm saying.
Well, the services were costing us more than what we were bringing in, even if people were paying. It was costing us more to run the program than the amount of lunches we were selling.
Right.
Okay.
So even if people were all paying, it
still were-
was still costing us
Okay.
more than we could recoup.
Okay.
And
That's
because
helpful.
we're on the summer payment schedule right now, we're getting the higher rate of pay. So we're able to make some money. So I'll be able to put money back into the program to try and buy either better food, higher quality food to get more kids to eat, or equipment that will make it easier for the people working to make different meals, different things that would get more people to eat.
Right.
Sometimes the better the quality of the food, the more kids will eat.
Right.
Has that been looked at in reference to the breakfasts? Because I've heard anecdotally that the food is maybe not that nutritious or that appealing.
It's very nutritious.
Okay.
I don't know how appealing it
Breakfast?
is.
Breakfast
It's-
is nutritious? I would.
What do they got?
I would disagree. There's cinnamon rolls, there are apple frutals. I mean,
Those things are all within the USDA guidelines, every one of those. It meets
I
the
I get it.
standards.
That tells you why our country is as unhealthy as it is.
Flip that triangle.
I don't know what those requirements are, but that's a lot of sugar.
Remember, these are the
people who told you ketchup was a vegetable.
That's right.
I mean, don't get rid of them because my daughter will kill me, but
But they do meet the USDA guidelines.
The one thing that's kind of sad about the whole thing that we see from a custodial perspective is that a lot of times when the USDA is looking at this numbers on what they're distributing for food to students, right? They say, well, Torrington High School, went through 400 cases of apples. Well, they don't realize that 300 cases of the apples ended up in the garbage. It's amazing the amount of food that does get thrown out.
So the other piece about being district-wide has really benefited us because that designation opens the door in terms of all kinds of grants as well. So really, it's a positive on so many different levels.
No.
And I agree with you on the breakfast foods, yeah. But like Lynn is saying, this is all approved, so It's a work in progress.
No, I
Yeah.
know they're approved. It's
Yeah.
just shocking that they are, I guess.
Yeah.
We can work on doing that better, buying better quality foods now that we actually have the funds to pay for them. So that's something that I have been working with the food service director and her staff to try and get things that are more appealing to the students.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Snickers.
So the profit numbers that we show, is the plan, the goal to take the excess funds and buy better quality, or is that, where does that go?
I would like to reinvest all of the money that we have in excess back into the program so that it would turn itself into more profits for the program.
That's historically what we've done.
Is that
Been
okay?
very beneficial, yeah.
Go ahead,
I know,
Nikki.
didn't we work with, what was it? Dr. Curry and that 5 or,
The
Yeah.
Fit
Yeah,
Together.
Together.
because I remember talking with one of the, when Cisco Catering had come in and tried to do some snacks and stuff. And I know she was very interested in getting involved in helping to make the food, improve the food and make, I guess, a little bit more consistent amongst the different schools. Because I think there's just difference in how they're doing it.
I would like to look at in the future, when we can sustain it, having a cook at every school so that they can actually cook fresh foods at every school. So that it will be more appealing for the students. But that's something that we need to be able to sustain.
Right.
So can I just ask on the cart option? Because don't we have to know who's taking the lunches to account for them? Or do we
They-
just have to know how many
Just,
lunches?
we just have to know how many right now because we're CEP. You just have to count them right now.
Oh, okay. So they don't have to be tied to a person, just how
So
many
the
lunches
children know,
did they
they
distribute?
count, right now they count them all. Every child, I've done 2 oversight at 2 of the schools during the lunch program. And they count every student and they check to make sure that every student has a reimbursable meal on their plate. Because without the fruit and without the milk, it's not reimbursable. So you have to have all of the groups on that plate.
So how would we know that in the cart? I'm just trying to make, so we
The
won't
cart is-
require additional staff on these carts.
The
in
cart's gonna have bagged foods. So
Okay.
basically a
Everything
bag to
will
go,
already be in
grab
it.
and go,
Okay,
like it was during COVID.
okay. Jason,
So
I just want to say that the middle school pre-COVID had really good lunch. And we were the pride of Torrington with our salad bar. And I'm hoping that that comes back because it is very sorely missed. And I think with COVID, we've done a lot of just bake-off types things. Whereas in the past, it's been a lot more fresh cooked type things that I remember. But I think COVID has really hindered our ability to do that. And Lynn, I don't know if you know it or Mrs. Lubomsky, is there going to be are we restricted right now due to COVID and what we can serve and how we serve it?
in some
Some
ways,
ways.
yes. So we're hopeful that we can move away from that. But you're right, Jason. I know that we had fresh soups at some schools. The fresh salads definitely were a draw for staff and for students. So we want to be able to get back to that. I think right now it's a little tenuous. So we'll keep you posted. But thanks for the feedback, though.
oh, Ellen,
I have a question on the carts. So a cart would say be in located somewhere not in the cafeteria. What's to prevent like anyone from just taking a bag?
Oh, there is staff with it. The staff that would be in the kitchen, there's 3 or 4 people that are there in serving lines. So if they're doing it out on the entranceway.
Oh, so
over
it's at the same
Mm-hmm.
time as, no, you said it would be like at 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock would be for the high school, because a lot of those students don't. I know we instituted that in East Haven and it brought it up by 20%, the breakfast participation, because teenagers just don't want to eat at 7 o'clock in the morning. They're not even awake.
They just rolled out of bed. most of them.
Exactly.
So
Many
do they
of
have
them-
to show their ID or something? I mean, how do they? or they just get a meal?
They actually had IDs in East Haven, and they would use the POS system for it.
We just don't have that yet.
We just don't have that right now.
But we're only counting number of lunches, right? So,
So
or
it would-
breakfast, so it doesn't matter if someone gets,
Right, so just count the bags that are
Okay,
not remaining. Or
But
that
we
are
need
remaining.
somebody there to monitor. Yes.
that's what I was
absolutely.
thinking,
Yeah.
not just the cart.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
and-
no,
and
it's not
just-
just a cart.
Right.
There's a
Okay.
body attached to the cart, because you have to make sure that everything's at temperature, because these carts have refrigeration.
Kathy or Ed, do you guys have anything?
No, I think it's a great idea. I don't have anything otherwise.
Ed, I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said, no, I think it's a great idea and I don't have anything to add otherwise.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody all set to move on to the capital plan? All right, capital plan review. Are you doing this one, or John, or Lynn?
Really, John and Lynn have been working on the capital plan. So
Yeah, so as discussed in a previous meeting, the only removals from the capital plan that you received before was the water heater for Vogel Wetmore School. So what you're looking at is everything in the 22-23 year per building and district-wide. With a grand total for this year's request of $6,494,000, knowing that also includes the flat roof replacement at Vogel Wetmore at 1.6 million and the metal roof replacement at Torrington Middle School at 3.8 million. So we have to decide if
I always get confused if, because it's bonded, does it still go in our capital plan? Because it's like the bonded item for the middle school, just carving that one out because the Vogel is a little bit more confusing, but that's already been bonded. Does it
Right.
still
Yeah,
go in our
that's-
So
capital
now
plan?
that that's been approved, because last month when we brought this forward, I
take it
think we
out?
were still, yeah, I would move that out.
Okay.
Move what out?
If you go to Torrington Middle School, second line down, the metal roof replacement repair,
Okay.
we can take that part out.
So the 3,800,000 will come out.
And it just becomes 93,000.
Pardon?
It brings the total to 22-23 to 93,000 for that school. And you
Oh,
take the
sorry.
3.8 out.
I'll give you an update.
Sure, Jason, go ahead.
Just in listening to the last meeting with the water heater, two questions. John, what school was that at where you said you don't use the locker rooms and you're able to save money on the size? That is not an emergency shelter that would eventually maybe need to have the use of the lockers, is it?
Nope.
Okay, that was the only question I had. And
We'll go over the security items in here.
Yep.
Don't worry about the balances, we'll get those. Because we
And you
can
can let us
present those
know
at the
next
board
week's
meeting.
meeting
Right,
if the roof thing has to stay in there or not.
I don't believe that it has to.
Because we're not asking for money.
Right.
But we don't need to know that till next week. but
Yep.
I'm just asking.
we'll clean it up.
So that takes that takes your total now down to, with the Vogel Wetmore roof still in there, $2,694,000.
Sounds better.
A lot better.
Okay, now if you want to go into the security, the security upgrades for 22-23.
Where are you, John? I'm sorry.
In the district, would be under the district section of the capital plan.
So say again, 'cause they were talking and I couldn't hear.
The district section of the capital
Mhm.
plan.
Okay.
Okay. So in your 22-23 year, these are the things that we had requested for for security grant funding. Knowing that there was a shakeup at the state level with the bond commission going three. Oh yeah, that's got to come out too. Sorry.
The
Going
communications.
three months without a bond commission meeting. That's why the security grant hasn't been funded.
They meet this month sometime.
They're supposed to meet this month.
They're supposed to.
They're supposed to, but we've been waiting. Well, we'll find out. So with that being said, the visitor, this is stuff that was discussed with the security professional. Ally, myself, Sue, Ed, we had a joint meeting with the security professional to pull the new building into our district and make one platform for everything that kind of flows together. So the visitor management system is in there. That's funded at 12. Access control system upgrade, it's funded at 30. The security management system funded at 78. These are all estimates. The new master lock system with key control at 190, knowing that all of these do not include the existing high school at the moment. Okay, we would not spend this kind of money on a building that we're going to take down in a couple of years. And that would give you a grand total with taking the handheld radios out of 298,000 for the security. And that would give you a grand total now at the bottom of 2.4
The
million.
existing cameras. You missed the 400.
No, that's out
Oh, wow.
in 2 different years.
I thought that was part of the security.
Yep.
Right.
The reason my cameras are out in the following year and 2 years after that is because we have to put the head end equipment in. Ally can certainly talk more about that, but you don't want to put the cart before the horse. We want the camera management system in place and then add our existing cameras to it and then add new cameras to it and build off of that system.
You're gonna need servers for that?
They're part of the shipping in the security camera management system, right?
Correct.
Servers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
So while I understand we can't do, like, we're not gonna do a big secure build out of the existing high school, is there any way that we could enclose that current vestibule with some bulletproof glass or make it more secure, that where you walk in,
At
where
the high
the person
school?
is sitting at the table there?
At the high school now?
Mhm.
Right, like what would it cost to at least secure that? I'm gonna call it a vestibule,
Well-
even though I know it's not a secure vestibule, but a holding area, right, where we could
All
get
right,
them
so
in and they can't.
Let me tell you what you currently have approved and is in your current capital plan right now is 138,000, I believe it is, for the Torrington Middle School. That's exactly what we're doing at Torrington Middle School, and it's in architectural design right now. That's a much easier project because the hallway doesn't come into effect at Torrington Middle School, where the hallway does come into effect at Torrington High School.
So I'm not looking at a big elaborate, I'm looking
Just
just at
between the
that,
2 sets of doors.
that
even,
little glassed
right?
in area where people, you walk in
Right.
and there's that little area. So I'm not talking about
The
full, I'm
one
like,
to the
this-
side?
In between the two sets of
Yeah,
doors.
in the very,
Right,
are you
there's 2
thinking
sets.
that's still
could that be
138?
secured with glass
Right.
that can't be broken, that's bulletproof, so that we could hold people in that area
Mhm.
rather than,
Let them through
Right.
the second set of doors, because right now they're not locked.
Right.
Right,
Once you get in the first set, you're
Yeah.
in.
You're in,
right.
and you can go through the second set.
This is basically
I,
like a sealed entryway.
Hmm.
somewhere to contain people so
Right.
that they couldn't,
Yeah.
push
I
through
don't know-
that second glass.
I don't know how
something.
crazy you want to get with those conversations, but let's just say I will look at it and I will present a proposal at the executive session.
Perfect.
Okay.
If
Well,
you-
no, because.
You're gonna need it
I
before
will need
next
it, 'cause
week.
this
You're
has to
gonna
be
need it for
submitted in
Wednesday.
December.
You
Next
want
Wednesday,
it,
the
you want it in
15th.
the capital plan?
That's public. You don't want it in the capital plan.
Well, not the
Well,
details,
so,
just the
we're-
expense.
right, I mean, some
Well,
of these,
but-
Torrington
Yeah.
has an install like locked
Right.
foyer,
So-
something
Yeah.
like that. Just general.
Reinforce current, if
Yeah,
reinforce
but
existing.
it's gonna
entryway or
take me,
something.
it's gonna take me longer than a week to get some kind of idea on numbers and quoting and
I have
biddings.
some of that already. I was
Yeah,
looking at window films.
Well,
enhance the
we can
strength.
bring a window film person out. Absolutely, we can bring a window film person out.
Because
but
that can make the windows
I
sustain.
still
an
think this
actual-
conversation should
Yeah.
Yeah.
not be discussed
So-
any further.
Yeah, we don't
Right,
know any
'cause we don't need the
details.
right, we don't need the
Just-
details, so let's. we
Just, it'll
can-
cost
We'll see what
$1
we
million,
can bring for
or
next
it'll cost
Wednesday.
500,000 to secure that area.
Right,
That's it.
yeah, well,
No
We'll work
details,
on that
just an
internally.
estimate as,
Okay.
yeah, however you decide to do it is
yeah,
Nikki,
Yeah.
go ahead.
not what we need to know.
Can you add the 20, what we're doing this year onto this capital plan? Because you just called out like 138,000, but it doesn't show that way in the
we
budget
can't, we
summary.
can't add
No,
it to
no,
this
it's
plan.
because it's already approved in last year's plan, so it's in capital reserve right now.
Right, but I'm just saying.
But just like a
capital reserve
page
In that
even.
mid into K through 8 has 91,958.
We can do a separate summary, but it won't be part of this plan because you need to physically, you have to literally approve the plan that is going forward. So we'll
Fine,
do that
that's
as
fine.
a
Just a
separate
I think I
page.
just want
Yeah,
to know what's,
Right,
what
what
we
we have this
sure.
year.
What's a
finalized in
separate
there.
and what's happening this year?
Yeah, and then the other question was.
Well, nothing's happening this year.
Yeah, there,
21,
yes, there
22.
there's the curbing at Torringford, there's the locked foyer at the middle school, there's the flooring at Southwest, and there was the field, the money that went towards the field, which goes every year,
Oh,
100,000.
for the turf field.
You remember the 544,000?
Yeah,
I got that.
544,000.
That's exactly
what
what's
it's
in there
gonna be.
right
That's
now.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then my other question was just around the security grant. Did we talk about where we are with that?
Yes, the bonding commission hasn't met to approve the requests from everybody in the state. We put a request in
September.
yeah, it was actually,
No, since we voted on September, it was
No,
in
it
June,
was put
right?
in June.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be voted on in September. There was a stir up at the state level. They haven't had 3 months in a row. They haven't had a bonding commission meeting to vote on that or approve that. So it's still out there in limbo at this point.
I thought Gary said their bond meeting wasn't gonna happen until January. Didn't he call this on?
We were told December.
Yeah, I
And
think he
who
checked
knows?
with
At
his
this
son.
point,
Changes
it could
daily
be
with the
January, it
weather.
could be December.
December
we're not
meeting
sure.
could be a
January.
Christmas party.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, we
right,
know.
who knows?
We don't know.
So it could still be put off.
And just one clarification, and I believe this is true, but like, we look to already put some of these things in some of the grants, and that's where some of them got denied.
So the history of it is that we had anticipated, and Jess is gonna pop me because I'm sitting right next to her. We had anticipated that the grant would be larger than it was, and that we would push off the security from last year's capital plan because we knew that the grant was coming out and we would put the security on the grant. And that's exactly what we did. And we did put the security on the grant when the grant came out. We're still sitting and waiting on the grant, but nothing was done with it. And
We
we
couldn't use
pushed the
ARPA
security.
or ESSA or any of
No.
those, right? I felt
No,
like we
no,
tried
the-
something and it got.
We did try to use some of that money for one thing and they pushed
That
it
was for
back.
the 2%
The
grant,
2% grant.
which
correct.
Okay.
then had to be used totally as if it were Title I.
That's right. correct.
Yeah, more for interventions, or for social workers,
Social
RBTs, social emotional, yeah.
I just think for this next coming year, we have to figure out how to fund these things.
So when I
Year after
develop
year.
and when I've done things with a capital plan in the past, all right, you always look at number one, anything that has the potential to close your buildings, right? If there's something that's going to be able to close those buildings and you can't bring the kids in, well, then all the rest of it doesn't matter. So you look at those repairs first, then you look at health and safety next. This is health and safety, okay? And then all the other stuff comes after that. So these are things like what we have in the district plan for the security stuff that really need to be funded. Regardless of whether there's grant money coming to us or not, you know, just I know you want to hit me.
No, but I think that's the I think what you're saying is the conversation in the package that we probably need to include when we present it to the city. So they're well aware of, like, you know, all the details surrounding it, understand that it's a priority and it's not just a number on a spreadsheet.
Has to be reinforced.
Yeah.
Well,
with, like,
now I don't get
Because they
involved
have that
now.
and everything. It just
The
needs to
one
be
thing is
reinforced
that
and
I
be
don't
brought
get
up.
involved after the plan leaves and the board approves the plan and then it goes to the city. There's not a whole lot of, I never get any conversation. Like, it was funny, like even in this last year's plan, what happened was there was no conversation about what was going to happen with that plan or what was going to get funded until it, you know, Ms. Lombomsky came in and gave me this letter from the city that said, hey, here's the things that you're funding. He gave it, she actually gave it to Ed, who gave it to me. So I don't know how they make those decisions there. Would be nice, you know, in a previous district, what would happen is we would have those meetings with the city and we would reinforce exactly what are the very important things on this list that need to be funded. And actually have an open dialogue with the city and meet with the mayor, meet with the select people and stuff like that. But I'm not sure how that happens here. I can't speak to
I
that.
think that's what we're striving for.
Right, and that's what we've been striving for a number of years, so. We're still, it's like the windows, we keep going.
Two other questions. How bad is the fogged windows at Vogel Wetner? Like, can you see out of them or?
No, you can't. They're actually, you have to forgive, I think there's 178 window panes that are fogged. Seals are broken, they're fogged. There's a couple of issues with that. One, we're losing energy. The other one is that you can't see out of them.
So is it possible to move that to 22, 23?
You can move anything anywhere you want. It's just a matter of, you know, the presentation of that final number, which right now currently the final number we're sitting at is $2,438,000. Knowing that the Vogel Wetmore roof is included in that.
I mean, I'm just looking at,
Yes.
you know, there's maintenance things and then there's things you should fix.
Right.
So to me, I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels, but.
It's a fine line in capital too, because capital isn't really maintenance, right? Maintenance needs to come out of our operating budget. Capital is those large, requests that really don't come out of our operating budget.
No, I know that. but what
everybody
I'm looking
defines
at
it a
is
little differently.
replacing a water heater in 3 years. Yes, you can put that out 3 years, but if there's something that's an immediate problem, then maybe we don't put it out 2 or 3 years. You know, if we have 178 window panes that are all fogged. It just seems, to me, that should be moved up.
All you have to do is tell me that's what you want done and
Well, I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but.
I mean, yeah, it's a repair as opposed to maintenance, to your point.
Well, it's not really a repair, it's capital. It's not a maintenance repair every
Because
day.
it's replace.
Right, it's replace.
Rather
Or
than
replace
repair.
rather,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
this wouldn't be to replace the windows. This would
Right.
be to replace just the glass sections of the windows that the seals are broken on. And ultimately, there may be, that's a big stretch, but there may be some incentive money from Eversource on that because you're saving energy by replacing the windows because now you're putting that layer of insulation back in the building.
How old are they?
What's that, Vogel or Wetmore?
Wetmore. Sorry, Vogel.
Vogel.
Vogel walls.
It could be-
Wetmore, but
I'm just wondering what building.
Because they could have. warranty.
Could have been.
No, oh, no,
No.
not even,
Yeah,
not even
70.
close.
Just asking.
So are they like the double pane windows?
Yes.
And then the inside is
Correct.
foggy? Okay.
A lot of them are almost white in color. You can't even see them.
They're probably there since that was the high school.
Last time the
In the
building was
60s.
renovated. Yeah.
Probably
it's-
up higher rather than. But we'll identify all of it. We can go through it again.
Mhm.
on Wednesday.
Is anyone opposed to moving that into 21, or I'm sorry, 22, 23? Ed? Ed?
No, I'm good. Nope.
Kathy?
No, I'm good with that.
Vicky, did you have a question?
Just, what's the window coverings?
Yeah, so a lot of the requests that came in from administrators were about window coverings and windows. And so in order to come up with a number on that, we did some research on with some window covering companies to come up with a number. One of the ones that I put in there in the 22, 23 year right off was the middle school, because we're going to be taking all the window coverings down to put the new windows in. So obviously we need to put window coverings back up. That's what the window coverings are. There's been a lot of complaints about solar gain or glares for being able to see smart boards or computers or whatnot, where we've been asked about window coverings. A lot of them are in pretty sad shape.
Can we like make that description to say that, like that they're replacement for the new windows? So it makes it sound like we're going after some new decor.
So replace window coverings.
I think so, right? Because the point you made makes them completely valid.
All right, so you want me to change the
So
language?
new
to-
window coverings replacement.
So if we make all of these verbs at the beginning, we say
Yeah.
replace
Mhm.
new window
Yeah.
coverings, or like the other one is
Just replace
repaid,
window covering.
Just to
Yeah.
make it clear.
repaid, and just try and do consistently.
Yeah.
Dawn?
So why don't we take the cloudy windows from Vogel Wet? There'll be no glare on the smart board.
That's a good idea.
Tables At the middle school.
Built-in
out of
shade.
25, 26, right? 'Cause there's gonna be a new middle school.
Well,
But they're still gonna use the
those,
school.
that still
Sorry,
stays
We're
with
still
that
using
building,
it.
even though it's a middle
Oh, okay.
school, it's.
Right.
It's.
I get it.
Then
Right.
it'll be 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Yes.
Primary.
Well, 4, 5, 6.
So
That's what
are
we're
we not
guessing.
doing a locked foyer at Vogel?
Intermediate. They're called intermediate.
Vogel Wetmore already has a locked foyer.
The
They
whole
have the
glass
lock-
way is
Mhm.
locked in
Yep,
between
it's
it.
locked in both directions,
You
to the
can't
gym
get-
side and to the school side. So they have to go to the office.
Yeah, okay. I just thought the locked foyers were more than just a locked area.
No, it's a locked foyer. It's to funnel people to one area without allowing them to have full access to our building.
I'll ask my other question at the security meeting.
One
Go
more
ahead,
question. John, when you're kind of doing the years out, right, 3, 4, 5 years out, what would you say that you're looking at to get those numbers? Because some of the schools seem a little low, but I don't know if you're just kind of, taking kind of the year in the chunk.
Give me a number. Give me what you're looking at.
Torrington Middle School, next 2023, 24 is 34,000. Like they just,
Well, so what we're really looking at with a lot of these is placeholders for things, right? But then there's going to be things that are going to come into the capital plan that we're going to plug into places as we need to plug them in. So a lot of these are placeholders. So yeah, even though it's a 5-year plan, so if you're looking at like 23, 24, we only really care about what's going to happen in this next year. Even though we're required to give a 5-year plan, everything is subject to change from 23, 24 out. And there's going to be a lot of shifting and moving, and what are the priority changes and whatnot. So, you know, and then on top of it, what happens a lot of times is a lot of this stuff doesn't get funded. All right. So if it doesn't get funded, where does it go? It goes out in the 23, 24. So a lot of times what you see in the current year is stuff that's been moved and moved and moved
Yeah.
through the system.
Yeah, I think just one of the conversations I remember was around like, you know, where we got with East, right? And so how are we making sure that we have those visibility into, you know, 4 or 5 years out, but that we have those visibilities. So hopefully as we improve, you know, kind of that back and forth with the city, we're providing not just like, hey, next year we need, you know, whatever it is, $2 million, but here's kind of where our longer term strategy is within our buildings and schools.
So longer term strategy within buildings and schools are when you look at those big projects that you're going to do with OSC GNR. But these are individual projects that we're going to be doing out throughout those years. Now, if the city was willing, and I haven't worked in a place yet that funds everything that they need to fund in the current year, all right, then that would certainly make planning a whole lot easier, but that's not the way it works, right? We always have to keep moving stuff out. Now, they might say to us, hey, we're going to give you half of the security stuff. Where's the other half of it going to go? It's got to get moved out. So there are placeholders that come in. And then as we look at things and we pick up more stuff, we put more stuff into that capital plan.
Yeah.
Everything that needs to be funded in the current year, that's what's in there right now in the current year. Those are the things that we're looking to fund. You know, still a big number.
I think just getting that visibility to any other big tickets that potentially are coming down the pipe, because there's 2 schools that we have, you know, gotten hit with so much repair needed, you know, so we can talk about it, but I would think that visibility further out is something that we need to put on. We can move it backwards, forwards, up, down, take it off, remove it, but having that visibility, I think is really going to help us in the long term.
We've had that in the past, but what happened was we went to the city with our budget, they cut it. The only place we could cut was capital. So we kept moving it out and out and out and out. And that's the reason. It's not that we didn't have a plan. We had a plan. We just couldn't fulfill that plan because we needed bodies in front of kids.
No, yeah, I understand.
So
the
I
not getting
think-
funded piece, but just how do we, because right now we have no visibility really past next year. It's very small of what the needs might be. So maybe it's, and I think we talked about this at some point, maybe it's not the official capital plan, but it's our working document. And maybe it's the working document that has all those things that, you know,
That we can follow.
that we can follow. And this is just the one that gets approved by the city. But I think we have to have that visibility.
Well, I will tell you that the one thing that I have not put in the plan, and it probably does need to go in the plan, and it's an easy adder, is an updated facility study. It's been quite some time since you've actually done a complete facility study with an architectural engineering firm, where they come in and they look at all your buildings and they put together capital expenditure lists for, I mean, incredible aspects of the buildings, you know, facades and roofs and windows and flooring, and they actually put estimates and numbers and everything. It's something that's required. It's something that's required. I don't know. The last time that I did one in Oxford on 4 buildings, which was about 500,000 square feet, it was about $50,000 to $60,000. Here, you're probably looking more like, you know, yeah.
Take the high school out of the picture.
Right. And so you were bigger in East Haven. So yeah, I think in that $80,000 range for a complete comprehensive facility study. I have to look to see when the last one was done. I do have them in my office. It's been some time since it's been done.
I mean, I would like to put that in just so that the board,
That's fine.
all of us are aware of, you know.
What's coming out.
Where would you like it?
Over here.
Right.
And I think,
Yeah.
I think
it's gonna blow.
also communication with the city that this is necessary and they can be aware of it and
No
want to
surprises
be
for
in on,
anybody.
So-
want to be in on it
Yeah.
because it's going to help them in the
Yeah.
long run. You know what I mean? It's going to help the
Silver's like-
taxpayers.
It's one of the, it's like their, yeah, there's like their full pay.
Long-term bonding strategy, like I think, you know.
What year do you want it in?
Next year.
22, 23? Okay.
Especially if we have to make a decision with the new high school and possibly moving. I mean, it'd be
Absolutely.
silly not to do it now.
Right.
We have to put it out to bid.
Yeah, it goes out to bid.
Well, it's everything like that. I mean, so
I'm
we
gonna
would carve
carry-
out the new building. we would
What
carve
is it
out
that you
this
wanna-
Building, so couldn't we put in 100,000?
Yeah, I was gonna say that 100,000 probably
Just be safe.
is a fair number to be safe, and we'll put it in at 100, and I'll add it into the plan so you'll see it next week.
Perfect. Anything else anyone would like to, that's better explanation or further input on for next week's meeting?
On the capital plan?
Yeah, because that has to be submitted to the city by December 31st.
Are we taking out the engineer review of the metal roof for the middle school if we're taking out the?
Oh, yeah, yes. Sorry, thank you for catching that. Yeah, Nikki, you're saving us money.
You're saving, I'm spending.
Really balance out.
You're spending more than she's saving, though.
No, we saved a lot. I saved
No,
the 3
right.
million 8, right? after
That's
Christmas.
Right. We only put $1 million back in.
Yeah.
So
I mean, is
you're
anyone
2.6.
opposed to putting 50,000 in for Google for security?
No,
No.
no opposition at all.
For
Security for
Security.
Google?
what? Because the
Vestibule.
vestibules, you have a locked vestibule there already, and all of the stuff that's in the capital or in the district part of the security plan that's all inclusive to all buildings, not just,
That's just the communication system, isn't it?
The
it's
visitor management system and
It's
access control.
access
upgrades,
control,
security
it's
camera
right,
management,
it's right,
Master locking system.
right.
Are you referring to a similar setup as the high school?
Yeah, something,
Those-
Similar
Like in that
Yes.
front
yeah. just-
where that most people go to?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking, that area?
Fortification.
The
right?
hallway.
But you already
Make it
have, that's
bulletproof?
the reason why it wasn't never put in there, is because it already exists in that, that's
It's
the only
double
building.
locked. You can go in one part and can't get through the
Yeah,
other.
so my
If you go
concern
to
is
the
in the
end.
material, but I don't want to go too far, so maybe
So
we
talk
can,
about it later.
or maybe put it in executive.
I
session
understand what
next
you
week.
want.
Okay.
Okay. So do you want to add that in, exactly what you said to me that you wanted to add in at there and at the high school? Would you like to add that in all buildings?
I assumed that was in,
Yeah.
Our-
The other areas.
I assumed in our new ones we're putting in that we would be doing that.
Well, in the new ones that are going in, yes, because it's required under the guidelines of the state to have that in place. There is no requirement for it to be in an existing structures.
We should apply it across the board.
So,
Could be an expensive retrofit.
so you're,
It's
We need to
exceedingly
look at it.
expensive.
Well, the alternative is,
I looked
course.
at putting it in our high school down there and it would have been $4 million.
I'm not sure we're talking about.
No,
Yeah,
I know,
they
I know
do.
exactly, I know exactly what you're, I know exactly
So
what you're
can we just
talking
put
about.
a
It's,
line
and I'm
item
not
in there?
talking, it's
Yes,
not,
Dollar
for-
amount.
yes.
it's not
So-
$4 million. It's,
Okay,
but
so,
Okay.
so let's just put 50,000,
Placeholder.
okay,
Mhm.
into, as a
Yeah.
placeholder at Vogel Wetmore. And then we'll present again next week and then we can hash out some of the specifics.
Okay.
And go from there. Okay, we still have to do technology capital also.
Yeah.
Ali's
Go
just
ahead,
gonna
Nikki.
Sorry,
mention, talk a
so
little bit
in
about that.
Forbes is the only locked foyer that's all the way in 24, 25.
So there's a problem with Forbes. The problem with Forbes is the hallway that crosses between the office and the foyerway. It's going to require a lot more engineering and thought on how they're going to do that to properly lock it. It may actually be a redesign of the bottom part of that building. The reason why it was moved out was because there was some future discussions about that not being part of our building, or not being our building anymore. Whether or not that's still going to happen or not, we don't know. That's the only reason why it was moved out.
You had that insecure door to the left of the main entrance as you're facing the building too, which complicates
Correct.
an already complicated
Correct.
situation.
Yes.
The main entrance used to be on
The other.
face down, yeah.
Is
They
there,
did, I
I
don't
wonder,
know.
is there something,
So
I
could
think
we
it's
also
established.
put something in there just so that we can pursue if there's something we can do to not build a whole new vestibule, but something to,
Reinforce the existing structure.
right.
Problem is with the old buildings, they weren't built.
I have a contact that I will get a hold of, and I will have a number for the fortification of all of those before next Wednesday, and it will be in the thing to discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just do it in a.
I know a guy.
session.
Yeah.
There's more than one person here that knows a guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's several options. so. Okay. Any other questions on the capital?
not one about like the description, I'm just trying to think of like the presentation that this goes out and like, can there be a little bit of like an explanation about the project? That's,
Like an attachment?
yeah, or just something that's like a little bit deeper than just the description that just, again, like it tells that story of what it really is versus
So-
just the name.
So that's a rationale.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, like you have on.
So
the
I will
budget.
tell you, that we tried that in my former district. And you know what they did? They looked at this and they threw that out. They didn't, it was too much for them to read. It was too much for them to understand. You're asking people who are making political decisions on financial expenditures to understand your rationale, and they don't care about
Put a
that.
bullet.
Wait a
One
minute.
bullet.
The only way that it worked was those face-to-face meetings.
Which we
And I think we're,
aren't privy to right now.
and we're trying.
So we could try and do something that's
But
simple,
I also
then you
think
can
it
see
might
if
be
you
helpful for
want
the
it or
public
not.
to see
Yeah.
that
How's
too.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
even like a
yeah.
one sheet or
Right,
something.
yeah, just a little TG.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like
Like
every little
Lynn's little
detail.
blurb.
These are the
Just-
priorities,
one
these are the
line.
buildings that these things
Yeah.
are featured in.
Because there's so many of them that are the same,
Right.
Right.
so you just need to bullet point.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on this before we move to Ally's capital technology?
Where's that?
We don't have a sheet on it. Alice is going to speak to it in
Okay.
terms of global, because that's been a moving target for so long in terms of this out of grants and this out of other pieces, donations.
For the
everything.
most part, there's several technology initiatives that I want to align with the new building, so that we come to the new building, the landscape of technology will uniform throughout the district, starting with interactive boards within the classrooms. We're going to standardize on the type of interactive board that we're using, which will be a smart board. We have in every classroom right now, probably 3 or 4 different kinds of whiteboards. These whiteboards have been, purchased over the years. They're aging. They're not fully compatible with current devices. They have the wrong ratio. So the moment, you have your laptop, the teachers have their screen, they're all, a white screen. Then they plug it into the smart board. The smart board is the old TV kind of 4:3 kind of ratio, and it throws everything off. So either you lose your points of touch, or everything now has black lines left and right of the screen. It becomes really frustrating. So over the next 5 years, the plan is to replace every single board that we have within district. At the same time, while we've been getting enormous help for E-rate, E-rate will not be able to cover everything in our infrastructure. So once we will have the single pane of glass, fully transparent infrastructure and aligned out the new building, we will need certain things that E-rate will not cover. Some of them are power supplies, several servers for backups. We've moved a lot of our storage to the cloud. Well, the cloud is also not foolproof, so we want to be able to fully back up our cloud storage. So it'll be things like that to really align with the new building and bring the new building technology really to all the other buildings in the district. And part of it will be a phone system as well. But we'll see where that falls once we speak with the consultant.
Maybe there'll be another.
What is the cost?
We don't know yet. For the phone system, we don't know yet. It really depends on what we'll do for the new building. So there are several options to choose from. One would be a hosted system, where the system would sit in the cloud, where you have little to no upfront costs, but then you pay for it for the service. It becomes phones as a service. So over time, it might become more expensive. Whereas the traditional method, which is what we use now, is to have a phone system at each location that all communicate with each other. And that would be, probably the same way that we'll go. But we'll have to have a discussion with the consultant and see which way would be more advisable to go.
But we're gonna need to submit something next week for
Right.
capital technology.
Yeah, so we'll pull it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions? Do you have any questions on the capital technology?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, Alliance 10% minority recruitment legislation.
So with everything going on, it's easy to have things fall through the cracks. So we were in our Alliance meeting last week, I believe. They were reminding all of us that we had to ensure that we had a 10% set aside from the increase in our Alliance money for minority teacher recruitment and retention. And so really what we're looking at is to make sure that we have a set aside of the 89,549, which is our amount, that we have to set this aside for mandated residency programs. So one of the programs we talked we didn't talk, it was tabled till next month, is the Ed Rising program. And there's other programs. We actually did a chart at the very back kind of outlining some different programs. But I wanted to give you the legislation just so that it's clarified. So the statement of purpose is the whole focus of this bill is to improve minority teacher recruitment and retention in the state by establishing the minority candidate certification, retention, or residency year program, developing a plan to promote the teaching profession as a career option to students in high school, develop and require school district personnel responsible for hiring educators to complete a video training module relating to implicit bias and anti-bias in the hiring process. So obviously they are trying, and Kim has done a really good job making sure that this is happening anyway. She's been working on minority recruitment. It has been a state initiative for a very long time. What's happening now is the state is attaching dollars that they're giving to districts to assure that this is being done. So because we're an alliance district, this is imperative for us. It's mandated for us. Other districts have chosen to do it anyway. So you have the legislation attached. So at the end of the legislation, at the end of the bill description, if you will, there are 3 programs that are predominantly used throughout Connecticut. And it's on this chart. If you could bring this one up. One that said it starts with teacher residency program. And a lot of people just call it TRP. And the other one is Educators Rising, which we started using really just because of the financial implications. And we've seen presentations on Educators Rising and on Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers. That was another program that we were very interested in. Obviously, we would need to do a combination of these or offer 2 residencies if we were going with the teacher residency program, because that one is the $65,750 per resident. The state is really encouraging a minimum of 2, which I know would be over our amount. So when we're talking about taking it out, if you want to see yet another copy of the Alliance allocation, basically what we do is we would end up taking it out of the money that we have for after school, extended school, day, transportation, all those things that we couldn't really work on because we haven't been able to have staffing or the busing. So, and really that's at the bottom and the back of our other, the second page. Educators Rising is in the proposal that we've been proposing all year long in terms of the funding. That's the 25,000. We knew this was an initiative from the state. Now the state, as I said, they're really clarifying, especially for Alliance districts, that you do that set aside of that amount. So Kim has had much more exposure in terms of these programs. You want to speak to the programs just a little bit? Kim?
Yeah, sure. So the teacher residency program is only in its 3rd year right now in Connecticut. And the nice thing about the teacher residency program is that it's a much quicker return on the investment because they're college students and the program is 18 months. And at the end of the 18 months, they are a teacher and we hire them. So it's much quicker for us to get that teacher in the classroom teaching the students. Educators, I'm sorry.
Can you just explain that? Because I'm trying to understand what that means. So are they currently in college for teaching?
Yeah, so the state is the ones that are reviewing the applications and recruiting the applicants to come in. And then for the districts that are participating in this residency program, they are the ones that are so I believe they already have bachelor's degrees. So, because they have to have a bachelor's degree to be a teacher. And then this 18-month residency program is an alternative route to certification. So it might be somebody with a bachelor's degree, not in education, but in something else, like that kind of a thing. So it's another alternative route to certification, similar to the ARC program that they have that is run through the state, but that's really more for second career people. So this is a little bit different. Like I said, brand new. So we're just understanding what it is. But like I said, this is the 2nd year. This is the 3rd year that they're doing it.
So does the residency pay for the 18? I'm just confused at what are we actually paying for 2 people?
If it's the same as the old program that I used in other districts, that pays for their college degree.
No, the 65,000 is their salary. So that's the salary for paying them. Plus there's a cost for a mentor that's assigned to them. And there's other costs involved in that.
That's
So,
44,000 a year, 'cause it's 18 months.
right. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that sounds different from what I read in the legislation and what I read in the article in the newspaper about it, because it doesn't make any sense to me why you would have a program to hire somebody who already has a 4-year teaching degree. You don't need a residency program.
I
for
didn't
that.
say a teaching degree. I said another degree, not an education degree. So it's
And-
a bachelor's degree in something else.
See, it does,
Right.
yeah, and it doesn't say that in here. And so that's what I'm concerned because in here, it sounds like they could be working as a paraprofessional,
And if they have a degree, they could be.
but you don't need a degree to be a paraprofessional. You can pass the parapro.
No, but
Some
we do have a
of
lot
ours
of
do.
paras that have degrees. So
Bachelor's
state
or
legislation for
associates.
certification requires that you have a bachelor's degree to be a teacher. So there's no
Right.
way they couldn't have a bachelor's degree to be a teacher.
But it doesn't say that. And that's where I was curious because I don't see how this,
But this legislation is not about how you run the teacher residency program. It's about funding. So this isn't a description of the residency program. So I mean, we could provide that information from the state.
Right, so, and that's the residency piece. And when we looked at it, we really have looked at Educators Rising and Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers, because we were looking at it as an education pathway. So we were really thinking that was a great way for our students to hopefully stay within our own community and to get, hopefully be interested, be supported, get some of their just apprenticeship, internship types of experiences and be funded. Now, Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers follows them all the way through to college. So it's very, very supportive. And that $3,000 per year is going through those 8 years. So you're really following them and then hopefully they're coming back and giving back, obviously, to your community. Educators Rising is a shorter period of time. That's the $10,000 per year. But there's a share with the Bucks grant as well. So what we'd have to pay for is the $3,500. So really, in both of those programs, you're targeting juniors and seniors and getting them ready for those next steps.
I'm just trying to understand, tying this new statute together. I don't know if it's a bill, this new bill
Yep.
together with how it meets the how Educators Rising and Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers tie into that.
The minority
Bill.
teacher recruitment.
Right. Is it because we're preparing them for that? And does that only allow minority students to participate in those programs?
Yes.
So predominantly,
yes.
yes.
So that's not
and
okay,
that's-
really.
So
The no.
Law says it is.
Well,
Right,
no, if we,
because the goal-
hold on, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
If I understand the state law says it is, however, we have the option to not
Not
buy into that. Because if we were to look at a pathway such as look into a pathway for teachers,
Right.
we wouldn't we wouldn't close it down to minority students. We would let the entire population participate. So that concerns me.
So let me just add, when we talked to Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers, they said that it's minorities, but it's also those students who may be the first ones to go on to college or may not have had, they have, they come from a lower socioeconomic status.
I don't think that, I
Those kind of things, but for
personally
this-
don't think that's,
So I'm just saying,
Okay.
because it's my job to share the legislation with
Right.
you, and it's tied to dollars. So if we are not participating in this, the state will say, then you don't get the
I'm
money.
not, I understand that.
That's
I
what I'm saying.
completely understand that. I'm
Yep.
not suggesting we don't participate. I'm suggesting we focus on a residency program that doesn't limit our students from participating.
I don't think you can just pick the residency if you look at the beginning. Right?
Yeah,
So we have-
it's a
so-
multi-tiered
Okay, so
piece.
I have a question. So for to meet our 10%,
Yep,
these are 3 routes,
yes.
right?
Yes.
But you can also use these for the non-minority and still recruit
I don't think you
Using
can.
these.
No, you
According to the
can't,
law.
Ellen.
as
No.
long as you meet your 10%.
You can use these programs, right, for other students. But in terms of the 10%, you cannot. Because
say you
this
meet the
is for
10%.
minority teacher recruitment.
Say you meet the 10% using these,
Yep,
and you have another 50 students
who are interested.
who are
That
interested.
are not minorities.
That are not minorities.
They
Then-
can't participate.
The board would have to decide, do you want to set aside funding for any of these other, for another residency for a student, or for today's students, tomorrow's teachers, another student who may not be a minority but comes from a low socioeconomic background. The Educators Rising, I think it was available to any student who was interested in teaching.
Yeah, but
this-
okay, so can I just as a
so
point
it's-
of order,
there's
can I
two things
just
going on.
ask? So this has been in the Alliance all year, but we haven't expended it because we haven't actually approved the courses.
The reason why our budget was approved was we had Educators Rising in there, and we were talking about recruiting teachers. We were talking about career pathways in our meetings. We were talking about pulling students in. We were talking about jobs that our students.
No, all I'm asking
All
is,
this, yep.
because, people are interested in looking at the curriculum and different things. Can we bring this back in January after everyone's had time to read through this? We can get some more information on the program. Or is this something that we're expected that we have to vote on this month? Only because it's been in our budget all year, is all I'm saying. This isn't in addition to our budget.
Right,
It's
but
just
at some point,
changing
we
what the
need to
program
add it
is.
to our alliance. It doesn't affect general budget unless we want to do
Yeah,
more
I'm saying it's been an
residencies.
alliance, but when we originally talked about the program, I think part of the confusion is we talked about the para and prepping people for the para proxy.
Right,
But
all of
Ed
those
Rising
other
is not
things.
about that though. So Ed
Right.
Rising that was in the Alliance all
Right.
time had nothing to do with that.
That was just something we were working on in terms of the education pathway. So but in terms of teachers, the Ed Rising is really all about the teacher program.
But I don't think anybody really understands because,
I think we do understand. That's the problem.
well, no, but I think we also have to understand what's in our rights, what's not in our rights. We have to really understand the statute because with Alliance, it's not just the loss of money. And I think that's what we have to
Okay,
be
so that's
careful
a
about.
whole other
So we
thing.
have to
That's a whole
know
other
exactly
discussion
what
to
it
have.
is.
But I think we all need to understand that, and it's probably a bigger discussion. If we do approve this, does that means that any non-minority students in our district cannot participate in these courses?
That is
In
not-
these
that is
pathways?
not true, just to clarify that. All three of these programs accept applicants from anyone who wants to apply.
You know
There
that
is-
for a
there is
fact.
Requirement. I know that for
For the student, for
100% fact.
educate, not teachers,
All three of
Kim.
them. All three of
educators
them.
rising,
All three
students.
of them have students. Any student can apply to this program. There are criteria for acceptance that do target underrepresented groups because this is geared. So just like scholarships have certain requirements.
So what are
that-
those
So
requirements?
I don't have all that in front of me.
That's
They
what we
accept
need
by
that.
legislation.
We
So
need
what I'm
that.
telling
Point of
you
order. That's what
is
I'm just
They
asking.
accept, they do not
Point of order.
refuse
That
people.
Point
means
of order.
stop.
All I'm asking is, do
They
we
allow you
need
to
to make
apply.
this decision tonight?
What?
They allow
Or
you to
can we
apply.
get
No, we
more
can wait, but at
information
some
and wait
point we
till
need to
January?
up the allocation out of Alliance. That's all I'm saying.
We need a
to-
lot of
we need to go-
information.
From the
Yeah, and we
25
need
the
to go
89.
from 25
Right.
to that 89. That's all.
But we're not expending that until we can make a better decision in January.
Right, and
Is
we
that
could do it
safe
in
to say,
January. It's
because
just we'll have to shift and we'll have to move relatively quickly. In the meantime, we're moving forward with the Educators Rising. We
we're
are,
not though.
No,
That's the
we're not.
problem, because the curriculum, wasn't-
No.
the course wasn't approved.
it's,
We can't move ahead with that without reviewing the curriculum and approving it.
okay, it's just that there are certain activities that are going on. We have we have a connection, people have been trained in it. And we have a program, and Sue can speak to this a little bit better, with New Britain, where we are doing kind of a sister district type of thing. Do you want to, can you hear us, Sue? Can you unmute?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody. So at the moment, because this is something that, obviously we're required to do, we are working with the New Britain Public Schools because they have implemented Ed Rising. And at the moment, Wayne Spletstozer is in training with the New Britain School District. So he's going to New Britain, he's observing, he's working with them to see what they're doing to implement this program.
So I think there's something in terms of the connection with the Bucks
Well,
program,
yes,
right?
So
That's
the training all happened over the summer. So because it was in the Alliance grant, we sent our people to the training. And the training was done over the summer for an administrator and a teacher at the high school.
Educators Rising.
Because that's been in our Alliance plan. It's been in our Alliance plan.
It's been in the Alliance plan
May.
since the beginning of the fiscal year.
So we sent our people to the training and started that process and, started as an after-school club is where we're starting for January. And that's been the plan all along.
Right.
Yes.
So I guess a couple of things. I mean, one, we've gotten these lists over and over, and they're not descriptive at all. Often the labels on these dollar amounts change as we sit here, talk about them. We'll be like, is this, oh no, actually that's supposed to be this, actually it's supposed to be this. And so I've only ever heard of Educators Rising in the context of we're doing some sort of teacher prep program. Okay. I didn't realize that this was like a standalone curriculum from an outside organization until I reviewed the course proposal last week. And when I did, I went on their website, I read their sample lesson. I went on to the website of PDK International, which is their sponsoring organization. I read their vision and their ideals, and they have some very controversial viewpoints on some things that I think the majority of this board would probably have significant concerns about. So the fact that we have put the cart before the horse and already started training teachers to run a course that we have not yet approved, I don't find that as a compelling reason to continue to go down this road until we have a chance to review and see if this is really something that aligns with where we need to go. And I'm just going to read you one thing. I didn't pull it up, so hopefully it loads quickly. If it doesn't, I won't torture you. Okay. The core values of PDK International, which is the organization that funds Ed Rising. The first one is social justice. It says, we promote practices that seek to achieve social justice and equity in public schools. Educators must understand the history and context of American public education, including institutional racism and discrimination, as well as the moral imperative to ensure equity of outcomes, opportunities, and resources for the most vulnerable students. So for us to put our students and our teachers through a curriculum that from an organization that believes we have a moral imperative to ensure the equity of outcomes is wildly controversial. And that's absolutely not something that we can go forward with until we have a robust discussion about this. And I've been through several meetings where we've talked about minority teacher recruitment and things like that. And we have always been very supportive of the idea of doing that. And we're very supportive of having an education pathway, but we don't need to do it like this. If we have to do something that's an education pathway, we can create our own, or we can find a curriculum that sticks to basic educational principles and not activist principles.
So when we present, and we can talk more about what the curriculum, they all come with a curriculum. So, and as far as programs, we can share what the titles are for the curriculum. They won't allow us to en masse send you curriculum documents because it's theirs and it's copyrighted and it's not public.
Wait a minute. They want us to buy it, but they won't tell us.
Yeah,
So that's
then
so
we don't need to approve it if they won't do that.
So we will work with the state to try and figure out what residency programs are available, or if the board so decides that we don't want to take the funding, whatever that is, then we can go
I don't
from
think
there.
we're saying that we don't want the funding. I think we need to really look at
If there's not a way,
program.
Want to not recruit minorities. We wanna
Exactly,
work
that
towards
goes
that.
without saying.
Right.
We've always been very supportive
But
of
if
that.
this comes with a lot of strings attached, that's a discussion that we need to do with. our
Sure,
eyes wide
and we can do
open.
that another meeting. I'm just saying at some point during this year, we have to allocate those funds if if the board is approving or agreeing to that. If they're not, then we can, like I said, we can go back to the state and say, we don't want those funds.
What do we do in the meantime with all the training and the preparation that's going on though?
We never asked for it.
Right, and if you
The board
don't
never
want
asked for
to,
it.
you want to take
Throw
that
it
off the
away.
table, then we stop that process and we lose the scholarship or the grant piece. That was a part of it.
C'est la vie.
Well, I think we just have to make sure that that's all that it is, and maybe we can, I think for me, it would be helpful, and I don't even know if this is possible, but if the Alliance people came out to talk to us.
I want to see that
Because my
curriculum now.
concern is not just the monetary piece of the 89,000, it's,
the strings that go along with it?
well, that plus the fact that, that we're an Alliance district. I don't think it's just the monetary piece, so I guess just a better understanding of what the options
Sure.
are.
Right.
What the
Because
In
it would
education
definitively
pathways,
be
yeah,
punitive.
recruiting minority teachers falls in line with this teacher residency program. And we're all for that. And we always have been, to Jess's point. But the fact that we would be specifically excluding a majority of our student population from participating in these pathways is not something that we signed up for.
No, and these all come with a price tag. So you just have to decide how many students, like how many scholarships would you want to give out.
But again,
Because this is, right, it's just a cost issue, that's all.
Well, not only a cost issue, it has to go, you have to go through an interview process and there's certain criteria that Kim said has to be met in order to be accepted.
Right.
What is that criteria?
Right,
That's
and
what we
each
need to know.
program is different.
Right.
Right.
Specifically
They
for
have
each
their own
program, what
criteria.
is the criteria?
Mhm.
And when can we get that?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
bring that forward in January. It's not a big deal.
And I would just like more information on the teacher residency program, because if that is what it talks about in the bill with the minority candidates, I don't see it spelled out in the bill that it says that this person has to have a 4-year degree. And if that is not the case, I find that extremely troubling that our state would put us in this position of putting students in our class, our teachers in our classrooms who have an insufficient education, especially in a district where our kids have low test scores, and that's why we're in this situation. So I'm very concerned about that, because there was a big article in the paper about it a couple weeks ago, and I was glad to see we were discussing it tonight because I've been meaning to ask about it. And then reading this again, unless I'm missing it, I don't see it. It sounds to me like if you're working, it says as a paraprofessional or as a teacher's assistant instructor or something like that, which is not even a position that we have to my knowledge, but that you could be involved in this program and do a 10-month thing and then become a certified teacher. So I hope I'm misunderstanding that. I would love to be misunderstanding that, because if I'm understanding that correctly, that's very disturbing to me. So if we could find out more about that, I'd appreciate that.
So we can bring back that information. I have no idea if anybody from Alliance or state would come, but I can share the information that they share with us.
Thank you.
Where does this live? Like this discussion, is it sick? Because I don't think it's budget.
It's kind of both committees, because it's in Alliance
Oh, because
and
of the
it's
money?
school. So
Yeah.
the course is in school improvement, but the money is in
Right.
budget because of Alliance.
It doesn't
So
say
it
that
does
in
need
here.
to keep crossing both
So-
committees.
Right. So we can
But
bring
this
it
isn't
back
ARC,
to
it's
SIC as
something
an
different.
issue.
But I would really
Or
want to
you
see
wanna
this
do it in
information
budget?
that supposedly is too sensitive for us to see because we're not bright enough. or woke enough.
I'll ask them, John, in terms of the
Please.
accessibility.
It says Kathy,
And the criteria.
hold on, Kathy.
I'm just, I feel like we've been doing training, and people from our district have invested their time and energy into doing some of the training. And, I went on their webpage and I read some of the information and look, and the bottom line is it is supported by Phi Delta Kappan. And I think because people have invested in it, it would make sense for us to possibly have one or some of them come and tell us about it. Would that make more sense, instead of trying to make our own assumptions based on what we're reading? I don't know. I feel like if people are in the trenches and training in it in New Britain, that it would be respectful of us to bring them in and have them chat with us a little bit about it.
There are a lot of people who have experienced these other programs that might be beneficial to have them present.
I just always feel it's good to hear from the people that are involved in it and invested in it, and not our people, our teachers who are working on it.
Ellen.
To Jess's point, so on bottom of page 2 and top of page 3, this is by law, SBE approves teacher preparation programs and alternate routes to certification programs. Within that is a bachelor's degree
bachelor's degree is a
requirement. So without it spelling bachelor's degree, it's within those programs.
You can't do the ARC if you don't have a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
See, and what made me question that is because in the same paragraph, it says, also, there is a law that allows school support staff to obtain a teacher certification through an ARC program that includes a 1-year residency, but that law is not specific to Alliance districts or minority candidates.
And
So
that's called Relay.
this
that
seems to be
program.
something different.
That's the one that they talked about
And
the
they
other
do
day
need
as
to
well.
have a bachelor's degree to
Yeah.
be eligible in Relay as well.
That's for paras, correct?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if people need a bachelor's degree and then they're going to do a residency, I have zero issue with that. My concern would be putting people in classrooms that have insufficient education.
The alternate route to certification requires one.
Well, certification regulations
Yes.
require a bachelor's degree to be a
You
certified
can't
teacher. You
get your
can't be
certification
a
without
certified
it.
teacher without a bachelor's degree.
So
That's
can
not
you,
possible.
can you bring that verbiage to us like a,
Certification regulations?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like,
579 pages, but I can.
No, but just
well, yeah, because
clarification
this
that
seems to
our,
be something different. So that's what makes me wonder, because if we already have an alternative certification route, why do we need this? This is different. And that's where, and it doesn't say, just because it specifies so many things, but it doesn't specify the level of education, that's where
Well, this was
I would-
written by legislators. You have to remember, it wasn't
Yeah.
written by the CSDE. It was
So
written by
it's-
legislators.
right,
Mhm.
so it's within,
That's making an assumption if it's not in black and white and it's not written there.
yeah, I would just
We
want to
can
see where,
assume what
where
it's
it
saying.
is. You know, and maybe there's, when the state, maybe that we could see the paperwork that the state uses to vet the people if the program's in its 3rd year. This is something that's been ongoing, so we should know if this is like how it's being followed, you know, that would be, because I think it would be great as long as they are having that, we have
No, I
that same
love,
level of
yeah,
education.
absolutely. My understanding with this legislation is that this is about the funding. So this is not a description of the teacher residency program
Right.
that has been in existence for 3 years, because this legislation just passed this past summer. So this legislation is simply about the funding in the alliance districts.
Right.
It's not about a description of the residency program. So this
Yeah, that's not
legislation
the
was never
function of,
intended
right.
to describe or outline that residency program.
It was
There
just
must
to
be
say.
legislation that describes the residency program.
Right.
I don't think that's a legislation. That's just a
That's
residency
this-
program that the state of Connecticut in collaboration with.
But there must be some
Creative.
documentation.
But
some
the- right,
description.
I
just
can
something-
find out through our
Yeah.
alliance
Right.
folks.
Just
Yeah, our
to,
state reps.
you know,
Right, like, that's
put
what
us
I'm
at
saying.
ease that that's
Yeah.
in fact what is,
Fiona,
Yeah.
what it is.
Mr. Lafreniere had his hand up.
Jason.
I was questioning whether or not I was going to say this because it's not necessarily about the recruitment, but the state just reauthorized the emergency certification, which is allowing teachers who aren't certified in certain areas to then teach in areas that they're not certified in. Granted, that's on a temporary basis, but just to your point, they're allowing it in many different areas. Granted, what you're discussing is on a more permanent basis, and what I just mentioned is a temporary basis. But the fact of the matter is we're having a hard time finding teachers to begin with. And we need to do something to make sure that we have people in the classroom, because the way that the year is going and the way that things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a mass exodus at the end of this year. I'm sorry.
And what will be the cause of that, you think, Jason? The mass exodus?
This has been a much tougher year than anything we've gone through in the last 20 months. From the start of COVID through the reintroduction. This year we thought was going to be a much easier year, and it's not. And I'm
Okay, why
sitting
not?
here almost
Why
in,
not?
and I'm almost here and sitting here in tears with the stress that we're going through, with mental health issues, with behaviors, with accountability.
Yeah.
It is tough. We're not getting the support from all families. We're not getting the support that we need. And it is a tough situation that we're going through right now. And people are at their wits' end. We had at least 17 people out in our building today with no substitutes. So now we're talking about not even being able to get substitutes. And now you're taking teachers out of their prep periods to cover other classes. We are dying in these classrooms.
Yeah, there's
We are
a lot.
dying, and I don't know what else you guys can do because you're pouring money into us. But I don't know what we can do unless there's some sort of major change through the community, through the public. It's tough.
Thank you.
Remember at the middle school board, I let you know today, we have 10 positive cases, you have 3 of those as staff, and it's happening. It's just happening everywhere. It's really, really tough. So
No, I don't think our problem is with bringing new people, minority. We've for years tried to get minority
Yep.
candidates
Yes, we
in.
have.
The residency program isn't the issue. Anything that involves a college degree is an issue. My issue is this curriculum that is so elegant that we can't see it.
Yeah, and maybe I misspoke. I'm gonna make sure that I can get the information, let you have access.
Yeah, and that's
We'll
all
figure
I'm
it out.
looking
We're
for,
all
is
learning.
not
This is new.
hastily making the
Right.
decision
Yeah.
without all the facts.
Sure.
And seeing exactly what we're looking at and then making a decision when we have all the information is all I'm looking for, moving it to January.
Well, because like my understanding, what we were being asked to approve was a curriculum for a class. And classes, whatever kid signs up for a class is who gets to take the class. So I don't see that there will be any like vetting of various people. If it's a class during the school day, whichever kids sign up for first get the
But I
class,
don't
right?
think that's the
But
case.
with what our responsibility is to offer a class during the school day.
But she just
that
said
for-
it was after school, and I
Right.
think that's
Well,
what's
but
confusing me
that's
even
not
more.
what we were asked to,
We were asked to approve a class.
because we
Right.
don't approve after school clubs.
So it started out as a club because we were just trying to figure out what the interest was in terms of teacher recruitment, to keep that education pathway, keep our kids, that kind of thing. So that's where it originated.
Hold on, so I'm
The roads
just
are bad.
getting that the roads are bad, so you guys all have a long ride. So if we can move this to January and just get more, I don't.
Just
know
Sure, table it.
if
that's
any
fine.
of you here
Yeah,
any
no,
longer.
no.
I
That's
didn't
fine.
realize it was so bad out.
I'm just.
So I apologize for that. I didn't.
Update.
Can I just
Sounds
let
like
you
you-
know the results of the propane bid?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll pass these out. The propane bid was open today, and Hocon Gas of Torrington was the low bidder. I'd like to bring it to the full board next week to give the bid to them for January 1st.
This is per gallon?
Yes.
Wow.
This would be
Will they
awesome.
deliver to us too?
They gave us 3 years, which was
That's great.
amazing. So
Awesome.
I'm really pleased with this bid.
Yeah. Okay. I hate to do this.
Is it because of
but
volume?
There's a couple of other things.
We have to talk about?
Well, no, just I'm wondering, should we do a continue? a
Yeah,
half hour
all of-
before the
I mean,
board meeting next
the-
week?
We can do it in January. We were
Okay,
just
perfect.
giving an update in terms of the new grant funding positions, because that's going to take time to go over.
Okay. so let's push it
Some
to
folks had
January.
asked for it, and we were just trying to clarify. I just want you to have the budget timeline. That's more of a notification, just so that you know, we give you the budget timeline
So
we've already
everyone
started
has it,
budget.
So if you can,
Yeah, so-
put it on the board meeting agenda for next week, so we can.
Oh, I can
discuss it.
present it again there.
Yeah.
Sure,
Is
that's
that
fine.
okay with
Yep,
everybody?
Yep.
yep,
And then we'll move that other thing to January.
yep. And maybe can we move you grant funding positions to January also?
Yeah.
Okay,
On the 15th, we're gonna go over the timeline.
yep.
Next week, yeah.
And this is
And
an
then we're gonna-
add-on to the agenda?
No, this is for
That
next
was an
week.
FYI, and I'm going to bring it to the full board.
Yeah.
Okay,
These things we're all
gotcha,
gonna
gotcha.
discuss again.
Okay,
so-
yep.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I don't want to move everybody, but I know
it
everybody's
sounds like
tired
it's-
and they all have like an hour ride home. So,
Lynn, was this based on volume?
topics for future meetings,
200,000 gallons.
budget,
Thank you.
alliance,
New grant funding
new grant.
and positions, grant funding and positions,
Monthly capital.
all
Are
the
we doing the
usual.
capital again? Yeah.
financials.
And then what we just discussed.
If no one opposed, I'm going to remove comments for the good of the order unless someone has
Nope.
an inkling that they want to say something for comments for the good of the order.
No, unless Ed does.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
8:44.
Thank you.